before we can even pour the concrete, we've got to clear the site, right? So what does it actually mean to be a tiny U on a tiny rock? The incredible channel Pursuit of Wonder reminds us that you are magnetized to a strange, lushly coated, wet rock, just floating in an endless, massive universe. You are a single frame in a movie that never ever ends. Now I know that sounds a bit intense, but it's actually the ultimate frame reset.
Phase 1, the cosmic foundation.
Look, before we build anything new, we absolutely have to clear away all that overwhelming anxiety of modern social expectations. We have to wipe away the dirt of constantly worrying about what other people think of us. As the lyrics from Colby Kayat remind us, the pressure to conform, to max out your credit cards at the mall, to basically bend until you break just so people will like you, well, that's a seriously fragile foundation. Choosing genuine self-acceptance, literally looking in the mirror and deciding to like yourself without the makeup on, is the absolute bedrock of a healthy life.
And if you ever struggle with that self-acceptance, just consider this worst-case scenario from Pursuit of Wonder. Realizing our cosmic insignificance is actually the ultimate permission slip. It is absolute freedom. You can completely let go of that paralyzing anxiety over a job interview or a first date or some important test. The worst thing that happens is you try, you fail, and you move on, like everything else. Recognizing this frees you up to just be decent, have fun, and really enjoy the hilarious absurdity of life.
Moving right along to Phase 2, wiring the resilient mind.
So our foundation is set. Now it's time to run the internal electrical. And that actually starts with a massive shift in how we think about discipline. Thanks to some amazing insights from Healthy Gamer GG, we know it's not about just forcing habits through sheer willpower. Willpower is really just a finite battery. It exhausts incredibly quickly. Real discipline is actually an emotion, and it's driven by resolve. Resolve is this infinite emotional fuel that cures the very root of our doubt. When you are truly resolved, you don't need to force yourself at all. Your internal fire simply burns away all the distractions.
So how exactly do we get this magical resolve? Well, the yogis had a really fascinating word for it, Sankalpa. It basically translates to an emotional commitment. Healthy Gamer GG points out a super cool psychological tool here. You don't just magically become disciplined overnight. You practice Sankalpa. You sit for, say, 10 minutes every morning and visualize something of medium difficulty, like giving up ice cream. By focusing on that emotional resolve daily, you fan the flames of an internal fire rather than relying on that depleting battery of willpower we just talked about.
Once you've got that fire lit, we need to wire in some confidence. TED-Ed actually gives us 3 brilliant, super concrete steps to do this. Step 1, the quick fix: strike a power pose or listen to some deep bass music to immediately feel powerful. Step 2, the growth mindset: neuroscience proves your brain connections literally grow like a muscle with practice. And step 3, practice failure. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers. Practicing failure actually strengthens your brain's capacity to persevere.
But as we're wiring up these new mindsets, I've got to give you a quick warning. Healthy Gamer GG shares this hilarious Zen master parable where a master told his monks to put a bucket over a distracting cat during meditation. Well, years later, the master and the cat died, and the monks completely panicked. They actively went out to find a brand new cat to put a bucket over just so they could meditate. The lesson here: do not build mindless, rigid routines that lose their original purpose over time.
Also, we really have to recognize that not everyone's wiring is identical. You know, ADD Magazine highlights that the ADHD brain actually faces its own unique hurdles. Folks with ADHD experience rejection-sensitive dysphoria, extreme time blindness, and executive dysfunction. If this is your wiring, you absolutely do not need internal shame. You fundamentally require external scaffolding to support your unique circuitry.
And this brilliantly illustrates our next step, Phase 3, scaffolding habits and systems.
So this brings us to how we actually build that external structure. Think about it like this. Jan Goebel teaches us how to build a dynamic YouTube clone using React for state management, right? While Elegant Themes shows us how Divi uses visual drag and drop elements for website design. It's a total orchestration of different technologies. Well, building a life is the exact same process. You have to orchestrate different habits. You use Darius Farrow's SMART goals to build your long-term career framework, and you use time blocking to drag and drop your daily focus.
And hey, if you need that structure like right now, Develop Good Habits offers 30 printable time-blocking templates. 30! That is literally the exact scaffolding your day needs. By implementing this external structure, you won't end the day totally exhausted, staring at the clock, wondering where all your precious time actually went.
All right, let's slow things down a bit as we enter our final stage. Phase 4, the Empathy Connection Blueprint.
We've poured the foundation, we've put up the scaffolding, now let's actually step inside the house. $229.4 billion. According to Forbes' real-time billionaire list, that is Mark Zuckerberg's net worth. We so often look at external financial wealth metrics as the pinnacle of a successful build. But the true internal metric of a successful, meaningful life, it isn't cash. It is the depth and quality of your human connections. Which brings us to this hilarious but honestly deeply poignant story from researcher Brené Brown. She was wearing white slacks, dropped a full cup of coffee on a tile floor, and the absolute millisecond it shattered, she yelled out loud, "Damn you, Steve!" Her husband wasn't even in the room. She literally blamed him because he was out late playing water polo the night before, which made her stay up late, which made her need a second cup of coffee. The fierce instinct to instantly blame someone else is universally human.
So the crucial point Brené Brown teaches us here is that blame just gives us a false semblance of control. It's really just a quick 15-second way to discharge our own discomfort and pain. But it completely destroys accountability. If you expend all your energy raging about whose fault the spilled coffee is, you lose all the tenacity, grit, and vulnerability that you actually need for real accountability and real connection.
And to truly build that connection, we have to understand the core difference between sympathy and empathy. When someone you care about is in a deep, dark hole of pain, sympathy looks down from the very top and says, "Oh wow, it's bad down there. Well, at least you have this other thing going for you." Trying to put a silver lining on someone's pain actually drives them further away from you. Empathy, on the other hand, is climbing down into that hole. It is feeling with people. Empathy is what actually fuels true connection. To actually put this into practice, nursing scholar Teresa Wiseman gives us 4 foundational pillars of empathy. You have to take their perspective as their truth, you have to recognize their emotion, and you have to communicate it back to them. But the hardest pillar by far, the one that requires the absolute most vulnerable choice, is number 2, staying completely out of judgment. That right there is the true blueprint for creating a safe space for the people you love.
Wow, we've covered some incredible ground today. We started by laying out our cosmic foundation, letting go of the anxiety of our tiny existence. We wired up a resilient mind fueled by emotional resolve, not just a depleting battery of willpower. We put up the scaffolding of daily systems to protect our precious time, and we finished the interior by choosing empathy and connection over blame. So I'm going to leave you with this final